Welcome to From the Margins to the Center, Strategies for Opening Doors to Queer and Trans Inclusion. My name is Deanna Phares, she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm an assistant professor in Humanities and Social Sciences librarian at Northern Illinois University. Today I'll be speaking about the intersection of two of my roles, as liaison to the Center for the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality, and as one of the co-chairs of NIU's Course Materials Affordability Task Force. And I'll be exploring the possibilities of uniting open and queer and trans-inclusive practices to support faculty and students. My work uses the definitions for queer and trans found on the LGBTQ+ terminology list developed by Northern Illinois University's Gender and Sexuality Resource Center. The site reminds users that it is a living and imperfect document because, quote, identity isn't easy to define, unquote. So these definitions are neither definitive nor meant to override other understandings of the terms or the experiences of people who identify with them. It is important to establish that I identify as a heterosexual cisgender woman. First, as I want to acknowledge the privileges that my identity carries, and second, because it must be clear that I am not speaking as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, but as an ally who tries to listen and responds to the needs of LGBTQ+ students, faculty, staff, and members of my local community. To better meet some of those needs, I participated in a semester-long queer and trans-inclusive pedagogy seminar jointly organized by the Center for the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality, the CSWGS, and the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, the GSRC, where we were invited to, quote, engage in a course revision with the goal of actively supporting and affirming transgender, gender nonconforming, non-binary students, and students with additional underrepresented gender identities. Campus Pride Index, which creates a yearly national listing of LGBTQ-friendly colleges and universities, notes that NIU, quote, offers a campus experience where LGBTQ+ students and their allies have community and can pursue academic and extracurricular interests inclusive of their identities. That being said, feedback from students on our campus, especially from queer and trans-identified students, suggests more work needs to be done, especially in these areas. Ongoing training of faculty and staff on issues related to identity, including gender and sexual/romantic orientation, reevaluating pedagogy and practice to ensure it is more inclusive, intersectional, and equity-minded, and remembering that LGBTQ+ people are people who are a part of our community, not topics to be debated. This feedback informs our goals, as do the CSWGS's pedagogical commitments to, quote, include voices and perspectives that are often marginalized or silenced, unquote, and, quote, co-create learning environments that promote a sense of safety and allow members to express their thoughts and feelings with authenticity and vulnerability. For my part, as a librarian, I undertook an audit of my LibGuides, tutorials, and other instructional materials, looking for ways to further foreground equity, develop more inclusive practices, and clearly signpost support for LGBTQ+ people. Queer and trans-inclusive practices emphasis on the empowerment of learners, co-creation of knowledge, and adoption of course texts that promote a sense of belonging point to a natural affinity with open education, especially if we move beyond Spark's emphasis upon, quote, resources, tools, and practices that are free of legal, financial, and technical barriers, unquote, and toward an approach that strives to be free of representational barriers as well, more akin to Sarah R. Lambert's 2018 social justice-aligned definition that focuses on redistributive justice, recognitive justice, and/or representational justice. Essentially, the seminar offered an opportunity to not only queer my resources and praxis, but queer my notions of open by embracing Paradis and Strommel's conception of an open education, quote, not confined by courses, platforms, syllabi, hierarchies, but exactly resisting those containers, imagining a space for marginalized representation, a space that troubles distinctions between student, teacher, and formal-informal learning, a space that recognizes our unique, embodied contexts and offers opportunities for liberation from them. This capacious notion encouraged me to conceive of open education practices more broadly as activities which remove barriers and promote a sense of safety. I crafted a welcome statement for my guide that not only declares support for diverse and intersectional identities, but also tries to demonstrate one of the center's pedagogical commitments, quote, holding ourselves accountable for the harmful practices and assumptions that have shaped our disciplines, unquote. The statement also emphasizes the need to correct past wrongs and acknowledges that oppressive systems can only be dismantled by joining with those who've been marginalized, showing respect and recognition. Carolyn Sinkinson advocates for an open pedagogy that not only foregrounds social justice, but articulates what should be its primary values and habits. I share these values and habits, and in my interactions with teaching faculty, I highlight open pedagogy's power to build community and introduce counter-narratives which complicate the dominant and incomplete picture we often find in traditional materials, while also stressing the critical nature of agency and ownership. Because while we want to leave space for marginalized people to move to the center and level hierarchies, we must also be aware of the risks they face and support their right to opt out. I won't rock anyone's world by telling you that I encourage open educational practices such as writing or editing Wikipedia content, or asking students to collaborate on producing a course text and its ancillaries as a way of co-creating knowledge. These are common in the Open Ped playbook. But the invitation to create zines, which have played a significant role in queer culture, or record an oral history, another established means of documenting the experience of LGBTQ+ people, not only displays a desire to open the classroom, but also signals an understanding of the modes of expression previously available and not available to marginalized people. Additionally, assignments which have students collaborating on an annotated bibliography or engaging in social annotation of a text make space for queer and intersectional reading, thinking, and writing, and for the intellectual labor of others who have been marginalized as well as those who have not. All of these practices, when tempered by the instructor's understanding of the risks borne by students in this open space and the responsibilities they must shoulder to mediate and mitigate the potential for harm, can lead to transformative experiences that not only affirm and support LGBTQ+ students, but all students. There is overlap between open and equity work and potential for productive partnerships. NIU's Course Materials Affordability Task Force is a joint partnership between the university libraries and the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning that initially concentrated on lowering textbook costs, but has since embraced open pedagogy and EDI work. Both units and the task force offer workshops on social justice-informed open pedagogical practice, and each has developed programming aimed at graduate assistants meant to support open and inclusive teaching on our campus and beyond. The university libraries also creates and shares resources with the Division of Academic Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The seminar inspired me to compile inclusion and equity-minded open pedagogy resources, which can be shared on NIU's Open Education and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion pages. Ultimately, the most obvious and important partners in queer and trans-inclusive open pedagogy work are the academic and/or cultural centers, which are often the spiritual and intellectual homes of students, staff, and faculty committed to LGBTQ+ inclusion. In my role as a librarian, I attend to their information needs and provide the materials and tools they require. But I also attend their programs and events, promote their resources, and find ways to buttress their efforts to, quote, build supportive spaces around campus where students can be their whole selves. Strommel reminds that the margin, quote, is a place of uncertainty, a place of friction, a place of critical thinking, not an open pedagogy neatly defined and delimited, unquote. But this open pedagogy's lack of neatness can offer a door into a space where queer and trans students can be their whole selves and move their experience, their knowledge, and their stories from the margin to the center. I have provided a list of references here at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your interest in this lightning talk. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.